and welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. So friends, I've been a business owner now for almost 30 years. It's hard for me to say that even. Almost 30 years I've been a business owner. If you can think of it in business, I pretty much have dealt with it. I've seen it. And for the last 20 years, I've had the honor and privilege of walking hand in hand with business owners to help them succeed in their goals and aspirations. I've stood on the stage in front of thousands of business owners and listened to their pleas of help, their aspirations in their business, the challenges, the struggles, the successes. It has been fun. I often quote this study provided by the Exit Planning Institute, which says we business owners, when we look at our net worth statement, roughly 80% of our net worth is contained in our business. If you were to look at your net worth statement, more than likely your business is your largest asset. And if our business is our largest asset, then it behooves us to understand how we can directly impact that value. And that's what I seek daily, weekly, to try to teach business owners is, hey, you can increase your net worth. You perhaps have heard me say on the podcast, it is possible to double your net worth every 3 to 5 years. It is possible to do that. I personally have experienced that. I've watched many business owners experience that particular multiplicative style of growth. It is possible. And when you dive into the inner workings of any business out there, there is one area that often is overlooked. There's an area that's often overlooked, which if we could grasp the power of it, would drive our value, would drive our net worth statements to help us achieve that 3 to 5 year doubling of net worth. What is it? It's simple. It's recurring revenue. Recurring revenue. You say, Justin, my business can't have recurring revenue. Man, I've heard that statement 1,000 times in my 20 years, and typically I'll say something like, you're right. If you think you can or think you can't, you're correct. But I disagree with that premise. I've yet to see a business where we cannot institute some sort of a recurring revenue model. So today I want to talk about the power of recurring revenue and how you can use it to increase the value of your net worth and increase the value of your business. So to set the stage, let's talk about first, what is recurring revenue? Recurring revenue is a model. It's a strategy. It's a model where revenue flows in predictably, continuously, and in a stable format. It comes in predictably. We know on a monthly basis how much this particular revenue stack, revenue source, whatever it may be in your particular business, we can pretty much guess within a few pennies or dollars how much that revenue is going to be next month, and the month after, the month after. And it's continuous in nature, and it's stable. Pretty much recurring revenue is as it sounds. Investopedia states that recurring revenue is, and I quote, they make a company more stable and predictable, both operationally and financially, lowering the risk that the business will take a drastic turn from one month to the next. It adds stability to business, recurring revenue. Now look, you may say, well, Justin, that's not possible. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I've heard that 1,000 times. But there are so many types of recurring revenue models available. So I want to dive into the various types that are available perhaps for your business. And if you think in a constructive manner, in a creative manner, more than likely you can fit or you can adjust or modify one of these models into your own business or to complement your current offering so that you too can increase the value of your company. So there's a recurring revenue model that's what's called a subscription-based. It's auto-renewing. I've seen subscription-based models in auto repair companies. I've seen it in dental offices, chiropractic offices. We see subscription-based modeling in big companies. So right off the bat, you may think Netflix or Hulu or Apple Music. You know, it was interesting. In 2021, Netflix's total revenue was $30 billion with a B, $30 billion. And that is mostly subscription-based revenue that's auto-renewing. Of course, they have some commercial and advertising revenue, but they receive the bulk of their revenue from subscription-based and auto-renewing. This type of model has been used by digital and print subscribers. So for example, I subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. It is a subscription base that auto-renews. Even as of late, we see restaurants like P.F. Chang's announcing these subscription-based auto-renewing models. I love sporting goods. And so companies like Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's, they offer subscription-based auto-recurring revenue models. So that is one type of model that you could potentially use for your business. Another type is what's called long-term contracts. So when you think of long-term contracts, what I hold in my hand here for those of us on YouTube is my cell phone. I use Verizon and I have an Android. I have a smartphone. I don't use Apple. So for those of you who are still in like archaic land, use a smartphone, right? Android here. Haha. That's my opinion. Feel free to make it yours. I'm joking here this morning, but think about this. Verizon has a long-term contract on my cell phone. And because of that, they have a reoccurring revenue model that I agree to pay X number of dollars per month in order to use their service. So it's a long-term contract. Back in my early days, one of my first businesses was that of landscaping. And even in landscaping, we had long-term contracts that we would say for Mr. and Mrs. Client, we'll do the following. We used to say mow, blow, and go, but we'll come in and mow your yard, weed eat, do all the blowing, keep it looking good. We'll apply fertilizers at certain times of the year. We'll remulch. In Southeast Georgia, it was rubber mulch or pine straw. Here in East Tennessee, we use a wood-based mulch, and sometimes we use rocks, but we would remulch the yard. And it was laid out in a fashion that, hey, this entire package would be $20,000 over the next 18 months. The client would sign a contract, and now we had regularity of income coming into our business. So it was a long-term type contract. It allows us to predict exactly how much money is coming in, especially in a seasonal type business like a landscaping company. Another recurring based model that you might look at is cross-selling or supplementary products. Cross-selling. You can create a revenue stream by selling a product that only works with another product you offer. So I love this strategy. We'll see it in many things like Apple. So obviously Apple makes cell phones. I used them earlier, but man, what a brilliant business model. They make cell phones. We got that. But they also make laptops and headwear and sound systems, and they have a subscription base for their downloads. They have so many products that they cross-sell that creates a supplementary recurring revenue off their primary product. Primary product being the OIS system. I think of the razor blade company, Gillette Razor. I pick on them because I like the Mach 3 razor. Haven't shaved in a while, for those of you looking at me on YouTube. Haven't shaved in a while, but I like the Mach 3 razor. What's interesting to me is you can go to the store and you can buy the actual stem, the razor itself, not the cartridge, but the handle portion of it. You can buy it and 3 or 4 different blades that are interchangeable for, let's say, X dollars, $10 hypothetically. And then when you say, I don't need the stem again, I don't need the handle, I just need the new blades to change out. Well, 4 blades are $10. So it's pretty interesting how their refill of cartridges makes a recurring revenue model. You may think Swiffer mops. I was amazed when I saw the Swiffer for the first time. I was homeschooled my whole life, and Mom made a big deal of the floors being clean in the house, probably because we were pigs growing up. We lived in the country, and you know how kids can be. And she said, hey, it's y'all's responsibility. So we used to use an old industrial wet mop with a bucket that had like the mop wringer built into the bucket. And so I pushed that old industrial wet mop around the house for years. Then when I saw the Swiffer, I was like, man, look how easy this is. And you had pretty ladies up there on TV dancing around our Swiffer mops. They had those cool little jingles. But if you think about that, the pads and their solutions are proprietary. They sell the handle for Swiffer mop, but then the pads and the cleaning solutions are recurring revenue. So that's how you can create supplemental style recurring revenue models with your key source of income. So friends, that's just 3 examples of how recurring revenue can happen. And there are many, many, many variations or modifications to that particular strategy. But why? Why does recurring revenue matter? Obviously, I set the stage in this particular podcast by saying it helps us drive our value. Yes. It helps us with our net worth. Yes. But let's dive a little bit deeper. One of the things that I have personally experienced, one of the things that I've watched clients personally experience when they introduce recurring revenue to their business is financial predictability. Financial predictability. You're now able to budget. In my own life, years ago, and when I first entered the financial world, it was so different than it is today. And we're talking 2 decades ago. At that particular time in the financial industry, there wasn't a lot of recurring revenue outside of insurance products. which if you're of the age like I am, where you can go back 20 years, you may remember the big push to buy whole life policies. And then Dave Ramsey made a big stink about buy term invest the difference, which is where I seem to align most of my life with. But at that time, it was, hey, you want to sell an insurance product, and if you do so, you'll make a little bit of money this year, but then you'll make a lot of money next year. And so what you're doing is you're building yourself up a cushion of income. It was financial predictability. I never really grasped the idea of selling insurance product, but I watched others. I took the approach of using term insurance because I was raised on the books of Larry Burkett and Dave Ramsey, and I believe that term is often for the younger generation, which is where I operated 20 years ago. It made a lot of sense to buy term insurance. But term insurance would give you a little commission, and then you'd have to go out, so to speak, and sell again, and it became exhausting. And I watched these seasoned insurance vets who had been in the industry for 20 years at that time, who were sitting back not having to hustle as much and yet making significant amounts of income off of this financial predictability of their recurring revenue. Now, things have changed since then, and there is now recurring revenue not only in the financial segment, but there's also that in the accounting segment, in the automobile segment, as I mentioned earlier, in the healthcare segment. Recurring revenue is everywhere that anybody desires it to be because of financial predictability. It is amazing how that works. Not only that, but it adds stability to a company. Of course, you have financial stability, but you also have stability in things like your personnel, your AP/AR, accounts payable, accounts receivable, your inventory management, your HR. Everything can operate in a stable environment. You're not having to accelerate super fast or decelerate super fast because you have recurring revenue. Let's throw our mind back to a most recent event that happened. Let's call COVID, right? 2021, when so many in the micro healthcare space found themselves having to mandatorily shut down their offices for 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 weeks. We're talking months. They were running full steam, COVID hits, and many in the micro healthcare arena were forced to close their offices. They experienced in that moment, how the lack of stability can hurt. The sting. Do I lay my employees off? Do I not? How do I pay the payments? I got payments to pay and I don't have the income coming in. You see, when you have recurring revenue, aside from the COVID debacle that we all experienced and survived, recurring revenue allows for stability, not only for revenue, not only for income purposes, but also for operational efficiency. So recurring revenue is magical in that particular light. In addition to the inner workings of business, there's one thing that recurring revenue often does that goes unnoticed, and that is this. It can help create a deeper customer relationship. It can help stickability of your clientele, whether they're a patient, a customer, a client, whatever term you use in your particular business. It adds a stickability factor. You see, in a traditional one payment method, what is forced upon the business is to sell the customer, deliver the goods or services, and then resell the customer to create a repeat customer. In my 20 years of consulting business owners, one of the things that I've noticed is if we can retain a customer, make them a repeat customer, or retain their loyalty, the cost of acquisition, which is how much money we spend to gain a customer, significantly decreases. So as we use recurring revenue, we're in effect creating a stickability factor for our customers. Harvard Business Review estimates that acquiring a new customer is anywhere between 5 to 25 times more expensive than retaining an existing one. In our little small town in Harriman, Tennessee, which has a population, I think, of like 4, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it is a small town. We have this car wash. No doubt you have one in your area where you pull your car up to it. You spray it off on the front side. The young people spray it off and get it ready, and it automatically drives through the system of brushes and sprayers, etc. You pull out and you go to the vacuums and you vacuum your car. I'd watched this car wash ran by this mom and pop company, and they never offered recurring revenue models. And therefore, what they were forced upon was their marketing alone. And they recently sold the company. And I was sitting down with the owner of that particular car wash, the original owner. I said, hey, what made you sell the car wash? He said, it was hard to continue to get customers. And I asked him a simple question. Why didn't you offer a recurring revenue model? What's that? The company who bought that car wash instantly provided a reoccurring revenue model. And guess what? Yours truly signed up for it. In fact, it was very interesting the way they had proposed it. If I went through the car wash for the first time, what would typically be the manager special, so to speak, was $29. You could get the manager special for $3. And for the next 4 months, you can wash your car as many times as you wanted for that $3. But then thereafter, it would move to, as an introductory offer, for $19.95 per month. So as I'm sitting there in the car wash thinking about this, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a year's worth of car wash here on the manager special, the high-end one. I'm going to get that for roughly about $180, give or take, over a 12-month period. Yeah, let's do it. Think about this now. I am now a raving fan. I'm now a recurring customer for that particular car wash, so much so that I'm using it on my podcast as an example. It's that clear in my mind how recurring revenue drives a deeper customer relationship. So now I'm also telling my friends, hey, right now there's a special at the car wash. They're under new management. You can go and you can get a year's worth of car washes on the highest level for roughly about $180. My friends are signing up. It's just amazing how reoccurring revenue drives an intimacy with your clientele that we never considered. On the other hand, think about what just happened. I'm only required to make that purchase as a customer one time. I don't have to rationalize to myself every time I drive by the car wash, do I want to spend $20 today for this one car wash? No. Now I'm just rationalizing to myself, hey, I made the decision one time and now I've got a year's worth of activity or access to that car wash. In reality, I'll probably use the car wash less. This is the way the health industry is also positioned. If you think about your gym, we're coming up now in the new year, depending on when this podcast airs. And those of us are thinking about our physical physiques. We're saying, hey, we need to lose some of these Thanksgiving and Christmas pounds. And so what do? We run down to the gym. We sign up for their New Year special, their new client special. And lo and behold, after 2 or 3 months, they call it the New Year rush. Those individuals who sign up in January are fleeting, and yet they're still paying for that gym membership for their contract for that period of time. A decision to purchase once that helps the business for a year. So friends, there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of benefits for recurring revenues. According to the Global Banking and Finance Review, 75% of business leaders believe that subscription-based business models are the key to growth. Think about that. 75% of business leaders, and there's a whole list of who those would be, say that subscription-based business models are the key to growth. So how about you? How about you and your particular business? You say, Justin, are there any downsides? Yeah, there's some downside. You may have customer churn. That is possible. You could have a customer today that signs up for it, like that gym that just falls off after a year. If you position it right, you can negate that and keep your business profitable. It can be challenging in a recurring revenue model to hire properly. It can be. I've dealt with it. You may have to carry a negative margin on your business for a month or two because of the way the recurring revenue model works. You often don't get big sales on the front side. Maybe you're in a business that you have both a recurring revenue model and a high influx of business, or a sale model. I think of my brother's swimming pool business. He can go out and build a custom swimming pool for 6 figures, and he has income from that one hit. Plus, he also has recurring revenue where they do pool cleaning nonstop. So he has both models. So you can hedge a downside there. Any objection to the downside risk can be easily overcome by the benefits of the upside. So how about you and your business? How about you? Do you have a recurring revenue model? If you have one, is it possible to create 2? If you don't have one, why not? What can you implement in your business today that would drive recurring revenue? Let me ask you another question. Perhaps you do have a recurring revenue model. Is it efficient? Have you tweaked the pricing? Have you done market research to determine if that pricing is going to continue to allow you to accelerate your business value? Friends, like I said at the beginning of the show, been doing this a long time. This is tough. Business is tough. But this is fun. When you figure out recurring revenue, it makes business so fun. It is a blast for all the reasons we've discussed this far. So my challenge to you is this. Let's create some recurring revenue in our business. And let's dive into that and let's stand back and watch our value grow. Friends, until next time, y'all go out and make it a great day.